Okay, now we're back. This is going to be section 13 of the book. This is Waldorf and Statler reviewing
attacks and damage.
Reviewing the 9th age with attacks and damage. And we're off to a little bit of a rough start, but we're going. Attacks and damage. This section of the rules.
It's computers. They're a fad.
Computer things?
Computers are a fad.
Yes, I'm sure they'll pass.
They'll pass.
It's like the pet rock and all that other
Exactly.
stuff. All right. Really, the first significant thing they change is they defined any attacks that's not a close combat is a ranged attack. Not a huge, I mean, it's just a definition more than anything. So spells are ranged attacks.
I think the clarification on special attacks is probably a little bigger.
And then, yeah, you're right.
Basically, everything that's not a ranged or a close is now a special attack.
Correct.
Which it's a simplification also, because a lot of the modifiers are very clear when things will go to normal attacks versus special attacks.
Yeah, and a lot of you'll see later in the special rules that, you know, what applies to special, what doesn't, which is good.
Right. But,
so,
but the usual just breaking things into 3 clear categories, I think that's
helpful.
Very helpful.
Because that's one, in the old rules, of course, that was one thing that was always a problem, is whether they were, you know, if this counted as a magic attack, a ranged attack, whatever.
Right. Or it was something else altogether different because the card said it or the army book said it was. So,
yes.
You know,
Yes. Attack sequence, nothing really changed there. I mean, the definitions are there, but it's always kind of, I don't think there's ever been a question on the procedure there.
Right. Get your hits, distribute them, roll the wound.
Yeah, distributing hits.
Make your saving throws, make any special saves you have, then take away the wounds and check for panic, just as it was before.
Yeah, distributing hits. Just clarify, all targets hit as a whole. Only hit rank and file when you're being, under most circumstances, you only hit rank and file.
And we'll get to the difference in characters.
When you throw characters into there.
Yeah. They talk about the wound pool, which is just, they had kind of a new rule, but I think it's more of just a clarification.
Right. About the champion, basically, more than anything.
Right. Well, just clearing when, you know, because they somewhat talk about other characters, like characters inside the unit, etc. And if you have mixed ones, that you go with the majority.
Oh, the different toughness. Okay.
Right. Which isn't such a problem now because they've gotten rid of a lot of that weird stuff that they've had in some of the old army books. You don't have like handlers and for most of the armies.
For most, I mean, you still have the Croxagore skink units, right?
You mix them together, and of course you still have the.
But I think they make you break up your attacks and roll them before you roll to hit, right? I don't know. Anyway, we'll get to that.
When we get to the book, I guess.
That's an army book thing.
That's an army book thing. That's true.
Yes. All right. To wound, same chart it's always been.
Yep, same table as before.
Yep.
Just with colors added.
Nothing changed there.
Yeah,
still the max out at 6, which
and
was a good change, I thought.
And the best is still a 2, and one's always still miss.
Yep. 1s and 6s still constant. Armor save modifiers just spelled out on the chart. No big deal.
Works the same way as it did before.
They did not do the plus armor for the lower strength, which a couple people were rumored was going to happen.
Yeah, that would have been annoying. I think it's a wise move because it's just you've already got the strength deficit. You're probably not wounding well anyway, so that
the low strength would almost become worthless.
Yeah,
I mean, they would have to really discount those low strength guys.
Exactly.
They talk about what's this? Ward saves, regen saves.
Yeah, I think this is in some ways it's a clarification. Before, I mean, I have to be honest. I kind of think this is a bit of a miss on them. I either wish they would have made regen and ward saves very different from one another, or they would have combined the two. Because they're basically the same thing, except for what ignores them.
Okay. Yeah, I can see your point, I guess.
If they would have gone to regen, you actually take the multiple wounds and then apply the regen. That would have been a different way of doing it. I think 5th or 6th did that.
Yeah, one of them came after the multiple wounds.
Right. Then I could see the difference, but otherwise, it seems it's
an unnecessary complication.
That's a complication. Just so, because I think they went out of their way now to make certain thing, created other special rules. So, you have to re-roll for regen versus ward saves and all
right.
that. So, yeah. And added more magic items because of it. They could have been used for other things.
Yes. Yeah. Although there's not a ton that cancel regeneration.
No.
Right?
No. Well,
other than the flaming, but I think there's only one of those.
Yeah.
So.
But I'm saying it's just to me, it's basically the same as it was before. The difference is on what effects. It's a little easier now to have a counter to ward saves than it used to be, and we'll see that when we talk about
the magic
abilities
items.
And magic items.
Right.
And regen is not as vulnerable because you don't.
Flaming seems to have gone down a little bit.
Well, it's gone down, but it doesn't do as much because you're only getting a reroll, which is before you got 2 wounds, right? Well, that's if you're flammable.
No,
never
flammable.
mind.
Yes.
No, I'm sorry. But I'm not thinking. Regen, if you got hit, you lost your regen for the entire phase. So you could take one archer hit with flaming and then, pummel them with your trebuchets, which was very nice. But,
right.
So now the weapon that's actually doing it has to have the flaming. So.
Yeah. Okay. Good point. Inflicting wounds. I mean, nothing really special here. Same as it's always been. Right? I mean.
Yeah, pretty much. They break out the non-rank and file, basically character kind of stuff, and then the champions and rank and file models.
Yeah. Removing casualties. Again, pull them out as kind of the way it's always been from both sides of a single rank only applies. Mm-hmm. The only thing they did was kind of clarify down here in units engaged in combat, where they say they give you the priority. The highest priority is keeping the number of units in combat.
Right.
Second priority, of course, is keeping the number of models.
Right.
So, I don't see anything special there.
I don't think there's anything that, that doesn't really matter here. I was just looking as I thought they were clear that you removed casualties from the rear rank from both sides.
They did up here when they're talking about if you're a single rank, right here, if you're a single rank, remove them equally as possible from both sides. Mm-hmm. But until you get down to that point, they don't really care.
Right, because the formation, though, when you're not in combat, you always center it, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Panic checks.
Here it is, under removing non-RNF models, and it says same guidelines as for casualty removal from rear ranks and equally from both sides in case of
Again, in the case of a single rank.
Yeah, single rank, so yeah.
Yeah, so again, not a huge deal. Panic checks, reason why you can take panic checks.
Right.
25% fleas get fled through, somebody breaks within 6.
And it's clear that happens at that point in time.
And then again, they clarify down here, when a panic test is forced and the unit flees directly from the center of the unit to the center of a unit.
The centra.
If it was done by one of these rules, spell cast by an enemy model, special rule on the table such as terror, blah blah blah. Otherwise, you flee from the nearest.
Right.
Yeah, and that's just this flee from the nearest is something a lot of people forget. Because if a unit breaks within 6 inches, you flee from the nearest, not from that combat.
Right.
And that's, again, this is a rule that's commonly forgotten, I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
And it hasn't changed since 8th edition.
Right. Now, there's one thing I think we may have missed in the previous section, and I thought it would be here, but it's not, but it was up there, was now when you lose a combat and you flee, it's about taking off models. You don't lose your battle, you don't lose your standard anymore. You lose the standard, but not the model.
Yeah, I think that's not covered until you get to the command group.
Oh. Well, I'm just thinking with the regular standard in the unit. So.
Yeah, still part of
you think it's in the first,
in the command group rules? I think
section,
I don't think it was in the lost group.
Yeah, okay.
But I'm not 100% sure on that either.
Right. So, but that's that's a neat change. But we'll talk about that when we get the characters.
Right, that you no longer lose that model,
Right.
where you used to lose the model
Right.
when it broke.
Which really sucked for characters.
Yeah, the BSBs.
It's a bad die roll.
Well, the big thing was, well, they're not there yet, but the special characters were who was it, the orc character, Gorbad?
That I used to like until you ran him down so many times.
Until he breaks from combat and he's dead.
Yeah.
Was the old one.
Well, the Slan with this as a battle standard was even worse because
Yes.
you tooled him up and all of a sudden, boom.
You lost a 600 point model.
Yes.
Just because you got
Plus
hit
a
in the
general
flank.
and a standard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little punishing, I think.
Yeah.
I guess the one question I had, just looking to see if I can see it, when you take the wound pool, do they clarify the thing if you've got like an ogre unit and you've already got 2 wounds on an ogre, you get hit by a rock lobber, it does 3 wounds, that it takes a whole model, not just doing 1 wound to finish off the guy?
That was in the wound pool, was it not?
To wounding, yeah. I think we probably should have known this before we brought this up, but you know.
Yeah.
We're showing our professionalism here. When normally removes a chasm, remove next to eligible. If a non-rank and file, removing both sides equally. Okay, yeah. I don't know. I don't see that.
Rank and file models.
It
Here,
might be
down
under troop
rank,
type.
under rank and file models, second paragraph. Go down.
This one?
Yes.
Have more than 1 wound. Remove whole whenever possible. Keep track of models that are wounded. Also, we need to take into account for example, unit 10 trolls, 3 wounds each lose 7 wounds. 2. Yeah, I mean, this really doesn't do it. Yeah, it's not.